Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the Karen Krausen Photography YouTube channel. So today I am heading over to the Florissant Fossil Bed National Monument, and I'm going to be pulling some information here from Wikipedia. Before I get started though, just a couple of quick tips. So I actually live not too far from this location, and I will tell you that if you visit in the summer, or around this time of the year, which right now it's the beginning of June, it seems like to me in the last couple of years I've lived here, almost 2 years, that between like 10 a.m. and noon, it seems to rain every day. It just so happened that while I was there, the rain didn't start until I left, thank goodness. So just keep that in mind and check the weather. Also, when I got into the visitor center to buy a ticket, they do not accept cash to buy tickets. So if you shop in the gift shop, which is also where you buy your ticket, they can take cash from the gift shop if you're purchasing there, but they cannot take cash when buying a ticket. So make sure you have both. They only take debit or credit in order to purchase a pass for the year or just a little day pass like I did for the day. And it's only $10. And that's of right now in June of 2023, it's $10 a person. So, and it's definitely worth it. Okay, so continuing on. So reading from Wikipedia, it says the Florissant Formation is a sedimentary geologic formation outcropping around Florissant, Teller County, Colorado. Formation is noted for the abundant and exceptionally preserved insect and plant fossils that are found in the mudstones and shales. Based on argon radiometric dating, the formation is, I may pronounce this wrong, Eocene, approximately 34 million years old in age, and has been interpreted as a lake environment. The fossils have been preserved because of the interaction of the volcanic ash from the nearby 39-mile volcanic field, with diatoms in the lake causing a diatom bloom. As the diatoms fell to the bottom of the lake, any plants or animals that had recently died were preserved by the diatom falls. Fine layers of clays and muds interspersed with layers of ash from paper shales, holding beautifully preserved fossils. The Florissant Fossil Beds National Monument is a national monument established to preserve and study the geology and history of the area. The name Florissant comes from the French word for flowering. In the late 19th century, tourists and excavators came to this location to observe the wildlife and collect samples for collections and study. The petrified forest, which is one of the main attractions at the monument today, lost much of its mass due to collectors removing large amounts of petrified wood from the site. During the 1860s and 1870s, the area was mapped by geologists for the first time. Geologists of the Hayden Survey visited the area in the early 1870s, and fossil plants from the beds were described by Leo Lescroix, fossil insects by Samuel Hubbard Scudder, and vertebrate fossils by Edward Drinker Cope. The formation was first formally named as the Florissant Lake Beds by Charles Whitman Cross in 1894. In 1969, the Florissant Fossil Bed National Monument was established after a long legal battle between local landowners and the federal government. Today, the park receives approximately 60,000 visitors a year and is the site of ongoing paleontological investigations. The formation itself was renamed the Florissant Formation in 2001 to conform with the requirements of the North American Commission on Stratigraphic Nomenclature. All right, guys, so that's it for me on reading off of Wikipedia. If you would like to read more off of Wikipedia, I definitely recommend it if you're very much into the scientific aspect of it. It goes much more in depth, and it's very interesting, but a little boring for my taste. I really like the people side of history. So anyway, I'm going to now be reading off of the National Park Service's website. If you'd like to visit that, just go to www.home.nps.gov/FLFO/learn/history culture, and it should pop up. Okay, so getting right into it. The fossils, rocks, hills, and valleys that make up Florissant Fossil Beds National Monument reveal to us an ancient story of redwood forests, volcanic eruptions, and a climate much different than today. In addition to a rich ancient history, the Florissant Valley also contains the stories of prehistoric hunting and gathering Paleo-Indians, the Ute and Apache peoples, the travels of a pioneer nation, and of early scientists making their way through discovery into a different time. Humans have been fascinated by the Florissant Valley for thousands of years. The first people to discover the fossils were the native peoples of the area. Settlers and homesteaders came to the valley in the late 1800s, as well as the first scientists. For many decades, the valley was the formation for several commercial quarry and tourist operations. In the summer of 1969, a legal battle ensued involving citizens and scientists, which resulted in the creation of the monument. The valley was once surrounded by volcanoes. They formed the landscape that you see today. 1.8 billion years ago, Pikes Peak granite formed with a massive batholith, an intrusion of molten rock that cooled underground. 70 to 40 million years ago, the modern Rocky Mountains formed. 37 million years ago, a massive flow of ash and hot gases tore through the valley. 34.1 million years ago, volcanic ash and debris created the conditions for fossil preservation. Lake Florissant formed and preserved delicate fossils in shale. The lake drained and formed a stream valley where mammals and tree stumps are preserved. And Lake Florissant forms again until a final volcanic pumice eruption fills the lake forever. 2.5 million years ago to 13,000 years ago, glaciers shaped the Rocky Mountains and the mammoths that live in the Florissant Valley. So now I'm going to be reading off the people in the valley 1800s timeline. So here we go. So settlers come to Florissant Valley. However, native people had been living here for thousands of years. A woodland point arrowhead was found in the valley that dates to 6,000 to 8,000 years old. Native tribes live in the area and have a strong connection to the land and to Pikes Peak. In 1872, the town of Florissant, established by James Castello, gets a post office. Ooh, side note, I recognize that name from another YouTube video. I guess I'll have to link that at the end of this video in case you want to watch that. But when I first moved here, I actually went to the Florissant Pioneer Cemetery, and James Castello was a big part of that video because of his, what's the word I'm looking for? He had an impact on the town of Florissant, if you will. I mean, he basically formed the town. So anyway, all right, so the town of Florissant, established by James Castello, gets a post office. David Long and his family are the first to settle on the land that will someday become Florissant Fossil Beds National Monument. 1870s. Scientists come to Florissant having heard of its fossil wonders. Many scientists visit to collect specimens. 1873. I really hope I'm not pronouncing this French guy's last name incorrectly. Leo Lescueur. It's Lesqueureux. Publishes the first scientific paper including Florissant fossils. 1873, A.C. Peel with the Hayden Survey collects at Florissant. 1873 and 1874, E.D. Cope, famous for his work with dinosaurs, studies Florissant fossil fish. 1874, Adam and Charlotte Hill move into the valley. Charlotte collects fossils and provides many beautiful specimens to visiting scientists. The fossil rose Rosa Hillei was named for Charlotte. 1877, Samuel Scudder collects at Florissant and will publish a landmark publication in 1890 entitled goodness gracious. Tertiary. I have really got to read a dictionary. Tertiary, Insects of North America. 1877, the Princeton Scientific Expedition collects at Florissant. 1878, Arthur Lakes makes the first geological map of the Florissant Valley. 1878, Adeline Hornbeck is the first person to file a homestead claim in Florissant Valley. Also, side note here, you can actually visit, it's called the Hornbeck Homestead, and it's right next to this location that I'm at here in this video. 1883, an attempt to transport the big stump is abandoned when the saw breaks and is stuck in the stump. The saw blades can still be seen today. 1887, the Colorado Midland Railway comes to Florissant for the first time. Passengers collect fossils at a stop along a tourist route that will be popular in the early 1900s. Next information comes from the Fossil Fame Flourishes 1900s timeline. So between 1906 and 1908, TDA Cockerell makes 3 expeditions to collect in Florissant. He will publish 134 papers on his findings over his nearly 40-year career. 1922, the Copland Petrified Forest opens. Owner John Copland moves the old Florissant Midland Railway station to the property and renovated it into a lodge. 1924, the Hendersons open a museum near the Redwood Trio on a second property next to the Copland Petrified Forest. This museum serves as a visitor center years later when the monument is established. 1927, Palmer and Agnes Singer buy the Copland Petrified Forest and change the name. They run the Bronco Dude Ranch and the Colorado Petrified Forest for the next 46 years. 1930s, scientists Harry McInginty and F. Martin Brown conduct research, including some of the first efforts to study ancient climate. 1950, John Baker buys the Henderson Petrified Forest, changes the name, and operates the Pike Petrified Forest until 1961. 1953, Harry McInginty's landmark monograph Fossil Plants of the Florissant Fossil Beds, Colorado, is published. 1956, Toby Wells, a young guide at Pike Petrified Forest, is approached near closing time one night by an unusual visitor. After looking at several of the stumps, the visitor asks about buying one for a display in his park. The man is Walt Disney. The petrified stump he buys is still on display at Frontierland in Disneyland. Side note, huge Disney freak, and I was really excited to learn that when I was out there. So that's just really cool. Okay, late 1950s and early 1960s. Estella Leopold collects fossil pollen samples at Florissant. So this next set of information, again, I'm still on the nps.gov website, and you can check all of this out for yourself there. But this is off of the Making a Monument timeline. So when the fossil beds face the danger of impending development, a powerful grassroots campaign rallies to protect the fossils. This rush to the finish line political battle was followed closely by news media. February 1969. Colorado Senator Gordon Allott presents a bill proposing the national monument to the Senate, Senate Bill 912. The first version of this bill was submitted in 1964. May 23, 1969. Estella Leopold learns that almost half of the land, the Gregg Tract, proposed for the monument is under contract with the Park Land Company. May 26, 1969. Estella Leopold and Betty Willard hire Victor Yanacone, a lawyer from New York, and he arrives in Denver. May 28, 1969. At the urging of Victor Yanacone, Estella Leopold and Beatrice Willard put together a group of the most prestigious scientists and civic leaders in the community to form the Defenders of Florissant, Inc. May 29, 1969. Senate hearing for Senate Bill 912. Testimony is heard in Colorado Springs from many concerned scientists, citizens, local government officials, and activist groups. And then there's a quote from Dr. Harry McInginty that reads, "As a page of Earth history from the dim past, it is priceless. There isn't anything like it." July 9th, 1969. Federal District Court in Denver hears the defender's case for a restraining order against development on the land until Congress has made a decision on monument status for the fossil beds. Judge Chiselson denies the case. Wow. July 29th, 1969. Judge Chiselson hears the defender's case again after his first ruling was appealed by Victor Yanacone and the Loms, Colorado lawyers for the case. Judge Chiselson, you know what? I'm just going to say judge at this point because I cannot pronounce this gentleman's last name. Judge denies the case again. After a second denial, the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals agrees to hear the case in a rare same-day hearing. Chief Justice Alfred P. Murrah hears the case and tells the Florissant lawyers he will sit on his decision until Congress acts. August 20th, 1969, President Richard Nixon signs the bill that establishes Florissant Fossil Beds National Monument for future generations to study and enjoy. Right, so this next bit is from the first 50 years as monument. So I'll go ahead and read that timeline off as well. 1970, William Ryan and Richard Shillinglaw arrive as the first rangers at the new monument. 1971, Victor Lewis is appointed as the monument's first superintendent. 1974, the famous fossil wasp, oh gracious, these big words, Paleovespa. I'll just spell that in case you want to Google this fossil. It looks like it says it's a wasp. Okay. Paleovespa, which you see on our logo, is found by Ranger Henry Tansky. Mid-1970s, F. Martin Brown volunteers his time as paleontologist until 1993. 1975, the former Henderson Museum is renovated for use as a ranger station and visitor center. 1976, the Hornbeck Homestead is restored and opened for visitors. And again, that is right next to this location, and you can visit it. And that one, it's completely free. You just pull into the parking lot and walk right up to the little buildings. It doesn't cost anything, and it's really cool to see. Okay, back to the timeline. 1980s, school field trips are now hosted at the monument. They're still ongoing today, too. There was a big school bus there when I went that day. 1987, the Friends of the Florissant Fossil Beds is founded. 1990s, Emmett Evanhoff and his students focused their efforts on the Florissant Valley, resulting in a modern stratigraphic column of the area's geology. 1992, F.M. Carpenter publishes a landmark paper, the insect volume of the Treatise on Invertebrate Paleontology. Many Florissant specimens are listed in this book. August 20th, 1994, Florissant Fossil Beds National Monument celebrates its 25th anniversary, and the passionate women behind the defenders of Florissant are reunited. Estella Leopold, Betty Willard, and Vim Wright. 1994, Dr. Herb Meyer joins the monument as its first paleontologist. And also again in 1994, a fossil mammoth tooth is discovered by an intern. Oh gosh, I would have loved to have been there on that day. That had to be exciting. 1997, the monument's paleontology internship program sees its first interns. More than 60 interns will be mentored through this program by 2019. I'm sure they were monitored too. Year 2000, paleontologists start a collaboration with a petrified forest in Sexy, Peru, which is still active today. 2003, The Fossils of Florissant by Dr. Herb Meyer is published, bringing together specimens from Florissant that are housed in collections around the world into the same volume. 2008, continued scientific research is published in a special Geological Society of America paper on the paleontology of the Florissant Formation. 2009, Florissant Fossil Beds National Monument celebrates its 40th anniversary, and lawyers and defenders are reunited. Estella Leopold, Tom Lamb, Dick Lamb, and Victor Yannicone. 2013, a permanent visitor center, museum, and research facility is built and dedicated. Also in 2013, the Geologic Trail is dedicated and opened to the public. 2017, the volunteer program at Florissant Fossil Beds wins the George Hartzog Award, the highest honor for a volunteer program in the National Park Service. 2017, a geology and paleontology camp for upper elementary school students is offered for the first time. And lastly, on the timeline is 2019. It says 34 million years after the volcano, 50 years after the monument was established, 3.4 million visitors later. Wow. Well, everyone, thank you so much for watching. If you're a subscriber and you've watched this the whole way through, I'm so glad you're here. Drop me a comment. And if you're new, I hope I've earned your subscription. And I will see you guys on the next adventure. Bye.